Within a week of Jimmy Trindade's disappearance, the Coast Guard had called off its search. But his best friend, Roger Gamblin, kept looking. For Jimmy's daughter, Taylor, Roger was her father's best chance.
We had planes going out every day searching for him and boats. And it was really scary because they said the seas were extremely, extremely rough and that if he were in the water, there was no hope for him.
With the Coast Guard stepping out of the picture, now the FBI became more active investigating the possible death of Jimmy Trindade at sea. But Roger Gamblin wanted to mount his own investigation independent of the FBI. He had set up his war room and now had a website staffed by what he called the Jimmy T. Recovery Team.
Now the rain has since made it go away.
He also hired 3 retired FBI agents to help as private investigators. When the Coast Guard returned Roger's 38-foot Donzi, he parked it in his driveway and had his employees take everything off, checking to see what might be missing. Obsessed with detail, Roger made sure everything was videotaped. One of the retired FBI agents, Joe Del Campo, then did forensics on the boat, looking for blood, hair, fiber, or prints, anything that might shed light on what happened.
If they got on and tried to overpower Jimmy, this place, I'll tell you what, it'd be
There'd be somebody's blood on board.
Yeah, somebody's blood or something.
The one problem we had with it was we received the boat a week later after the incident had taken place, where tons of people had walked on the boat.
To say the very least, this was a compromised environment, if not contaminated.
I would say beyond compromised, because there was nothing there of evidentiary value that we could find.
As the months went by and with no arrests, the FBI investigation seemed to be languishing. Jimmy's family had a judge declare him legally dead. And that seemed to be the end of the story. Then, 10 months after Jimmy's disappearance, a possible break. A Homeland Security agent named Don Guthrie got a call from an informant of his, a former drug smuggler. Guthrie spent 30 years on the ocean chasing drug smugglers. He asked that we disguise him.
The smuggler asked me if I was sitting down. I said, why? Why? And he says, well, I'm in the Bahamas, and the word is that Jimmy Trindade's Donzi, his 38-foot Donzi, was sabotaged by somebody pouring water in the gas tank, and that this endeavor was related to a cocaine smuggling venture.
This was the first time an informant had come forward with specific information that drug smugglers were involved in Jimmy's disappearance. Investigators had found a small baggie of cocaine and some residue on the boat, but Guthrie ruled out that the drugs belonged to Jimmy. So if they weren't Jimmy's, who did they belong to? And why was the boat sabotaged? Looking for clues, Guthrie went back and questioned the Coast Guard men who boarded the boat. Coast Guardsman Nathan Blackwell told Guthrie that when he checked the boat's GPS to find out where Jimmy had traveled that night, the GPS, for the most part, had been erased.
I couldn't determine where exactly the boat left from and get its course and where it was headed. It was strange. Something definitely didn't add up.
And there was something else about the boat that didn't add up to the Coast Guard.
When we got there, it was sitting dead in the water. So I turned the key to see if there was fuel in the boat, and the gauge had said water and fuel.
Jay Christo of the Coast Guard found the boat was empty of fuel, but had a lot of water in the tank. That much water would force the engines to run poorly and possibly burn out. As the Coast Guard infrared camera showed, only 2 of the 3 engines displayed any heat from running. The third engine had already shut down, causing the boat to go around in circles. But where could the water have come from? Rosie Curry owns the Grand Key Marina where the boat's gassed up.
And we never had a problem that where he said he would have water in the fuel.
That never happened.
That never happened.
So if the water didn't come from the marina's fuel supply, it appeared to Agent Guthrie that his informant's tip was correct.
There was 3 to 4 inches of water in that 320-gallon fuel tank on the 38-foot Donzi. It appears that the vessel may have been sabotaged at Grand Key.
Guthrie concluded that as Jimmy left Grand Key, a drug deal was about to go down at sea, and the participants didn't want Jimmy showing up to interrupt it. So they sabotaged his boat to slow him down. But Agent Guthrie believed the sabotage didn't work as planned.
Jimmy may have pulled up on a scene were
on a drug deal.
On a drug deal that was occurring, and basically he argued with one of the smugglers, and this individual blasted Jimmy right on the 38 Donzie and killed him.
And this information comes from a reliable, confidential informant?
Well, it comes from a reliable person that basically has a lot to lose by admitting this endeavor. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
But there was one piece of the puzzle that Guthrie had yet to figure out. What was Jimmy doing in the middle of a drug deal? What made him stop in the first place? Jimmy's brother Patrick thought the last two people to see Jimmy alive, Chris Gamblin and Brian Prats, might have some answers to those questions.
When I was trying to question them as to what happened, it was very obvious in a gut feeling in me that we weren't getting the truth.